Something just shifted, and it didn't come from a headline. It came from a moment people almost missed. There's talk that Kandi didn't just hear rumors. She stepped directly into them. Not online. Not through statements. Face to face. And the way it's being described? It wasn't calm. It wasn't staged. It was controlled, but intense enough that people close to the situation are now speaking differently. Listen, because this isn't just another cheating rumor story. The name Todd Tucker is being pulled into something that doesn't follow the usual pattern. No random screenshots. No obvious clout chase. Instead, what's coming out, according to some reports, is that there may have been a direct confrontation involving someone who allegedly had a connection to Todd. And that changes the entire structure of this situation. Because when things move offline, they're usually more serious than what you see online. Now here's where it gets strange. There are whispers that this didn't just happen recently. That there may have been signs earlier, small ones, that didn't get attention at the time. Certain behaviors. Certain absences. Nothing confirmed. But enough for people to now look back and say, wait, that might have meant something. And nobody is saying everything out loud. That's the part people are missing. Because when individuals this visible stay quiet while tension builds around them, it's usually not random. It usually means something is being handled behind the scenes carefully. So now the question isn't just what happened, it's what's about to come out next. And who already knows more than they're saying. The first thing people are trying to understand is when this actually started, not when it became public, but when the situation first shifted behind closed doors. Because according to early chatter, this wasn't something that appeared overnight. Built slowly, quietly, and the signs, if they were there, weren't obvious at the time. So the timeline matters. Kandi and Todd Tucker have always been seen as a solid unit publicly, business-minded, structured, not overly dramatic in the way their relationship is presented. That's why this situation is hitting differently, because it doesn't match the image people have been used to. And when something doesn't match the image, people start looking for what changed. According to some reports, the first hints didn't come from social media. They came from behavior, subtle changes, scheduling conflicts that didn't fully make sense, moments where Todd wasn't present in situations where he normally would be. Again, nothing confirmed, but enough for people close to the situation to start asking quiet questions. At the same time, Kandi's focus seemed sharper, not distracted but more controlled, more intentional about what she shared publicly and what she didn't. And when someone like Kandi moves that way, it usually means she's aware of something, even if she's not addressing it directly. Now here's where it starts to get more specific. The alleged third party, the woman being discussed in these reports, wasn't introduced to the public through a dramatic reveal. No viral video, no direct claim, just mentions, indirect references that started appearing in conversations connected to people who are close enough to matter. And that's important, because when information comes from that level, not fully public but not completely private, it tends to carry more weight than random online speculation. Still, it's not confirmed, and that line has to stay clear. Then the timeline overlaps with something else. Work commitments. Both Kandi and Todd are deeply involved in business ventures, production work, and television. That creates space, physical and emotional, travel, long hours, separate schedules. In situations like that, distance can either strengthen a relationship or create room for complications. Some people believe that's where this situation may have developed. Not suddenly, but gradually. And that brings the emotional stakes into focus. Because this isn't just about a rumor. It's about a long-standing relationship being questioned in real time. A partnership that has been both personal and professional. And when those two things are connected, any disruption affects more than just the relationship. It affects everything built around it. Now here's where the confusion begins. Different accounts are describing the alleged confrontation in different ways. Some say it was direct and immediate. Others suggest it was more controlled, more of a conversation than an explosion. But all versions point to one thing. Kandi didn't ignore it. That alone shifts the narrative. Because ignoring a rumor is one thing. Addressing it privately is another. And if she did confront the situation directly, that suggests she believed there was enough there to take seriously, even if nothing has been publicly confirmed. At the same time, Todd hasn't made any clear public statement addressing these claims. No detailed response. No denial that directly breaks down the situation. Just distance. And that silence is being interpreted in different ways. Some see it as respect, keeping private matters private. Others see it as avoidance. Neither interpretation has been confirmed, but both are shaping how people view what's happening. Now the situation sits in a very specific place. Not proven, not dismissed, and still developing. Because without official clarification, everything depends on what surfaces next, whether that's statements, evidence, or simply more consistent accounts from people connected to the situation. And right now, those pieces haven't fully come together. Now the reaction spills out of the private space and hits the public all at once, and that's when everything starts moving faster than the facts. Because once those early reports and whispers reached social media, the tone shifted immediately. It stopped being a quiet situation and turned into a full conversation. Clips, comments, reactions. People weren't waiting for confirmation. They were choosing sides. Listen, this is where narratives start forming before the truth has a chance to catch up. One side of the audience is convinced something serious happened involving Todd Tucker. They're pointing to the consistency of the claims, saying too many similar accounts are circulating for it to be nothing. They're also bringing up past moments, small ones, that didn't seem important before but now feel different under this lens. The other side isn't buying it. They're saying this looks like another situation where speculation is being amplified without proof. According to that group, no screenshots, no direct evidence, no clear statement means this shouldn't be treated as fact. And they're pushing back hard against what they see as assumptions turning into accusations. And that divide is getting wider. Meanwhile, the name of the alleged woman continues to float, but not in a stable way. Some posts claim to identify her. Others contradict those claims completely. Different photos, different stories, different timelines. That inconsistency creates confusion, but it also raises a red flag. Because if the details don't match, then something isn't lining up. Still, that doesn't slow the conversation down. If anything, it speeds it up. Then comes the first real twist. A post surfaces from someone claiming indirect knowledge of the situation. Not a primary source. Not someone publicly tied to Kandi or Todd, but close enough to make people pay attention. They don't provide proof, but they describe the confrontation as unexpected and not what people think. That phrase spreads quickly because it suggests the situation might be more complicated than a simple cheating narrative. Now people start asking different questions. Not just, did it happen? But, what actually happened during that confrontation? Because if it wasn't a typical argument, if it was controlled, strategic, then that points to a different kind of dynamic. One where emotions are present but decisions are calculated. And that fits Kandi's reputation. Now here's where the contradictions start stacking. Some reports suggest Kandi was calm, direct, and focused on getting answers. Others claim the situation was more heated than people are admitting publicly. No video, no confirmed audio, just conflicting descriptions. And that leaves everything open to interpretation. At the same time, people begin analyzing Todd's recent public appearances. Not what he says, but how he appears. Body language, tone, energy. Some viewers say he looks unaffected. Others say there's a difference, subtle but noticeable. That kind of analysis isn't proof, but it adds another layer to how the situation is being perceived. And perception is driving everything right now. Then attention shifts to how both of them are moving online. What they post, what they don't post, who they interact with. Those details start getting tracked closely. Because in situations like this, silence and activity both get interpreted as signals. Still, nothing official has been clarified. And that's what keeps the tension high. Because without confirmation, every new detail, no matter how small, gets treated like a potential breakthrough. Now the situation isn't just about a rumor. It's about conflicting versions of the same story, different accounts, different interpretations. And one key moment, the alleged confrontation, that nobody has fully explained. If you're following this, stay locked in because this is where stories either collapse under pressure or take a turn nobody expected. Now the situation shifts from reaction into pressure, and that's where things start tightening behind the scenes. Because once a story like this reaches a certain level, it's not just fans watching anymore. It's business partners, networks, people connected to contracts, branding, and public image. And when those layers get involved, decisions don't happen casually. Listen, the focus moves back to Kandi Burruss not because she's speaking, but because she isn't. Her silence doesn't feel accidental, feels measured. And when someone with her experience chooses not to address something directly, it usually means there's a reason for that timing. At the same time, Todd Tucker is still not giving a clear response either. No direct denial. No breakdown of events. Just a steady presence that doesn't acknowledge the noise around him. And that kind of approach can go two ways. It can calm a situation, or it can make people question why there's no clarity. Now here's where the pressure builds. According to some reports, conversations may be happening privately. Not arguments, but strategic discussions. How to handle the narrative. Whether to address it publicly or let it fade. Because at this level, every response has consequences. Speaking too early can lock you into a position. Waiting too long can let the narrative grow beyond control. And right now, that narrative is still expanding. Some people are starting to move past the idea of a single incident and into something broader. They're asking whether this could be part of a deeper issue in the relationship. Not just one moment, but a pattern that hasn't been visible publicly. Important to say, this is speculation. Nothing has been confirmed, but the question is being asked more often now. Then another layer comes into focus. The business side. Kandi and Todd aren't just a couple. They're partners in multiple ventures. That means any tension doesn't stay personal. It affects decisions, appearances, and long-term planning. And when business and personal life are connected like that, handling a situation becomes more complicated. Because it's not just about emotions. It's about stability. Now here's where it gets more intense. Some observers are pointing out that Kandi's past approach to conflict has always been controlled. Direct but not reckless. Strategic, not reactive. And if that pattern holds, then whatever happened in that alleged confrontation wasn't just emotional. It was intentional. That idea changes how people are viewing everything. Because it suggests she wasn't caught off guard. It suggests she may have already had concerns before that moment happened. Again, nothing confirmed, but it aligns with how she's known to move. Meanwhile, the alleged third party remains unclear. No confirmed identity, no direct statement. Just fragments of information that don't fully connect. And that lack of clarity keeps the situation unstable. Because without a defined figure, the narrative stays open-ended. Then there's another possibility being discussed, quietly. Some people believe this entire situation might be more complicated than a straightforward cheating story. That there could be context missing, miscommunication, or even a scenario that's being interpreted differently by different people involved. That possibility doesn't erase anything, but it adds complexity, because not every situation fits into a simple explanation. Still, the tension doesn't drop. Because no matter how many angles are considered, one fact remains: there was reportedly a confrontation. And until that moment is fully explained, it holds the center of the story. Now everything sits in a controlled but unresolved space. No official confirmation. No complete denial. Just careful silence from both sides. And a growing sense that whatever the truth is, it hasn't been fully revealed yet. Because situations like this don't stay hidden forever. They either get clarified, or they come out in ways nobody expected. Now everything reaches that point where the next move matters more than everything that came before it. Because the conversation has already done its job. The questions are out. The speculation is active. The audience is watching closely. And now it's no longer about what people think. It's about what actually gets addressed. Listen. A subtle shift starts happening in how this is being handled publicly. Not a full statement. Not a direct response. But small, controlled signals. Kandi Burruss continues moving like nothing is, unstable on the surface. Focused. Present. Business as usual. But that kind of composure under pressure doesn't happen by accident. It suggests intention, control, a decision to not let the narrative dictate her movement. At the same time, Todd Tucker maintains that same distance. No reaction that feeds the situation. No emotional response that escalates it. And that consistency becomes its own statement even without words. But here's where it gets more precise. People start noticing what isn't happening. No joint appearance addressing the situation. No coordinated message. No unified front being presented to the public. And in situations like this, that absence gets analyzed just as much as any direct action. Now the conversation reaches its peak tension. Because the audience has built expectations. Some expect denial. Some expect confirmation. Some expect a deeper explanation that changes the narrative entirely. And none of those expectations have been met yet. That creates pressure. Not just publicly, but internally. Because at some point, staying silent stops being neutral. It starts being interpreted as a choice. And every day that passes without clarity adds weight to that choice. Then another detail shifts the perspective again. A few observers begin pointing out that the longer this remains unaddressed, the more control both sides actually have over the outcome. Because without official statements, nothing is locked in. The narrative stays fluid. And that flexibility can be used strategically. That idea changes how people are viewing the silence. Not as avoidance, but as positioning. Still, there are risks. Because while control can protect a situation, it can also allow speculation to grow beyond what's accurate. And once a narrative grows too far, even the truth can struggle to reset it. Now the biggest question starts to settle in. What is being protected? Is it the relationship, the business, the reputation, or something else entirely that hasn't been revealed yet? That question doesn't have an answer right now, but it's driving everything. Meanwhile, the alleged third party remains completely undefined. No confirmed identity, no verified statement, and that absence creates a strange dynamic because a key figure in the narrative exists only through claims, not confirmation. That keeps the story open, unfinished, and still moving. At the same time, people are starting to step back and look at the bigger picture. Not just the rumor, but the structure of how it unfolded, how quickly it spread, how it shifted from private to public without clear proof, and what that says about how stories are formed in real time. Because this isn't just about one situation anymore. It's about how easily perception can take shape without full information, and how difficult it is to slow that down once it starts. So now everything sits right at the edge. No resolution, no collapse, just a situation waiting for one clear move to define it. And until that move happens, whether it's a statement, evidence, or something completely unexpected, this stays exactly where it is, open, unanswered, and one step away from changing completely. If you've been following this closely, then you already understand, this isn't just about one rumor or one moment. It's about how quickly a situation can shift when there's just enough information to raise questions, but not enough to settle them. So stay locked in, because the next move, whether it comes from Kandi Burruss, Todd Tucker, or even someone connected behind the scenes, could change how everything you just heard is interpreted. One statement, one piece of real confirmation, and the entire narrative flips instantly. Make sure you're subscribed. Turn notifications on, not for drama but for clarity, because situations like this don't resolve all at once. They unfold in pieces, and the smallest update can carry the biggest meaning. Now here's the real question. When something this serious stays unconfirmed but keeps gaining attention, are people uncovering something real that hasn't been exposed yet? Or are they building a story that's growing faster than the truth can catch up?